My name is Claire Whitmore. I am 39 years old. And the moment I realized my family no longer saw me as a daughter was the moment my father tried to claim my beach house like it belonged to him. I was standing barefoot in my kitchen in Charlotte, staring at a family group chat that somehow already had sleeping arrangements, grocery lists, and parking plans for a reunion nobody had asked me about. 24 relatives. 3 days. My house. My father typed the message like he was confirming a hotel reservation he personally owned. The Kiowa house is perfect for the reunion. A few seconds later, my mother added another message. Claire, just stock the fridge before everyone gets there, and please do not make a scene this time. I read that sentence twice. Not because I was confused, because I finally understood what they thought I was. Not family. Not a daughter. Not even a person with boundaries. Just the woman expected to pay for everything quietly. That beach house cost me years of overnight cyber attack emergencies, canceled vacations, panic-fueled conference calls, and exhaustion so deep I once fell asleep sitting upright in an airport terminal. I bought that house because I needed one peaceful place in my life. But somewhere along the way my family stopped seeing it as mine. To them it became free oceanfront access, with my name attached to the mortgage. I stared at the messages for almost a minute before typing 2 words. Not happening. The chat immediately went silent. Then my mother sent laughing emojis. My father replied that they were coming whether I liked it or not. A year earlier that message would have made me panic. This time I just placed my phone face down on the counter and let the silence settle. By Friday morning, when my father called screaming about what I had done to the house gate, I already knew exactly where he was standing. Outside a locked entrance he never believed I would close. People hear my job title and assume my life is polished and impressive. Corporate cybersecurity crisis manager sounds important at dinner parties. What it really means is that my phone rings when somebody else's disaster has already started. A hospital system gets hacked at 2 in the morning. A financial company discovers customer data leaking online. An exhausted employee clicks the wrong email and suddenly millions of dollars are at risk before sunrise. That is when my team gets called. For almost 15 years, I lived inside constant emergencies. 3 monitors glowing in dark rooms. Cold coffee beside my keyboard. Conference calls stretching into dawn while executives demanded answers nobody had yet. I missed birthdays. Canceled vacations. Left restaurants halfway through dinner because a client system suddenly went offline. After enough years, your body forgets how to relax. Even silence starts feeling temporary. That was why I bought the beach house on Kiowa Island. Not to impress people. Not to post pictures online. Not because I wanted some luxury lifestyle fantasy. I bought it because I was exhausted in ways sleep could not fix. The house itself was simple and quiet. Soft gray floors. Wide windows facing the water. A back deck where you could hear waves at night if the wind was calm enough. The first morning I woke up there, I sat outside with coffee and realized it was the first time in years I had gone 20 minutes without checking my phone. That house became the only place where my nervous system stopped preparing for bad news. My husband Ethan understood that immediately. Ethan teaches American history at a public high school outside Charlotte, and he has the steady calmness that makes other people slow down without realizing it. He never cared about the house as some status symbol. To him it meant I finally had somewhere safe enough to breathe. That mattered because Ethan saw something I tried hard to ignore. I knew how to manage billion-dollar cyber disasters, but I had absolutely no idea how to tell my own family no. I grew up in a family where love and obligation were treated like the same thing. My father Richard believed respect meant compliance. If he gave instructions, people followed them. If he made plans, nobody questioned them. And if someone pushed back, he acted personally insulted by the inconvenience. My mother Diane handled things differently. She rarely raised her voice. Instead, she used disappointment like pressure slowly tightening around your chest. She had a talent for making guilt sound reasonable. Family comes first. Do not embarrass your father. Your brother needs support right now. You are the successful one. Those phrases shaped most of my adult life. And for years I responded exactly the way they expected. When my parents needed roof repairs after a storm, I paid for them. When my brother Tyler nearly lost his food truck business because of engine problems, I transferred money without hesitation. When my younger sister Madison wanted professional camera equipment to grow her social media brand, I bought it for her birthday. At first, everybody thanked me constantly. Then gratitude slowly turned into expectation. Eventually, they stopped asking carefully altogether. Tyler began calling instead of requesting. Madison started referring to my beach house online like it belonged to the entire Hale family. My father became the worst about it. The first time he visited the house, he stood on the deck staring at the water and said something that sounded harmless at the time. "This is the kind of place that keeps a family together." I smiled because I thought he was being sentimental. What I did not realize was that he had already mentally converted my private home into shared family property. After that, he introduced it to relatives as our beach place. Not Claire's house. Not Claire and Ethan's home. Ours. That single word changed everything. Soon cousins I barely spoke to started asking if they could spend weekends there. Tyler texted asking whether the grill still had propane before even confirming permission to visit. Madison filmed videos inside my kitchen and tagged locations near the property without telling me. Every boundary felt negotiable to them because my success had become useful. That is the dangerous thing about achievement inside families without healthy limits. People stop admiring what you built. They start calculating what access to it can give them. At first, the problems felt small enough to excuse. A forgotten mess in the kitchen. Wet towels left on hardwood floors. Extra guests showing up without warning. I kept telling myself families were imperfect and that none of it was worth starting conflict over. But disrespect grows fastest when nobody challenges it early. One weekend, Tyler borrowed the house while Ethan and I stayed in Charlotte for work. When we arrived the following Sunday, the place looked completely different from how we left it. Sticky fingerprints covered the sliding glass doors. Soda stains dried near the sofa. One cabinet hinge hung loose like somebody had slammed it too hard. Tyler never mentioned any of it. When I asked, he shrugged and said kids get wild at the beach. Then he laughed and told me not to be so uptight. Madison became even harder to manage. She started treating the house like a content backdrop for her online audience. One afternoon, I opened social media and nearly dropped my phone after seeing her filming cocktail videos from my kitchen island. In the caption, she called it the Hale Family Coastal Retreat. Not once did she mention the house belonged to Ethan and me. Thousands of strangers were now looking at pieces of my private life because my sister wanted engagement online. I immediately called her and asked her to remove the location references. Instead of apologizing, she sounded annoyed. She accused me of overreacting and said I was hurting her brand over something harmless. My father defended her before the conversation even ended. "Claire, you are doing well financially. Why make such a big deal over a house?" That sentence stayed with me because it revealed how little they understood. The issue was never the building itself. It was the entitlement attached to it. Ethan noticed the shift before I fully admitted it to myself. One evening after another long cleanup trip, he stood in the laundry room holding damp beach towels and quietly asked me something I still remember word for word. "Have you noticed they do not ask anymore? They announce." I snapped at him immediately. Not because he was wrong. Because hearing the truth out loud made it impossible to keep pretending everything was normal. Later that night, while replacing stained bedsheets and wiping sand from the hallway floor, I finally understood what bothered me most. Nobody felt responsible for the damage because nobody truly respected ownership anymore. The house no longer represented my peace to them. It represented access. And access always mattered more than boundaries. The breaking point started with a holiday weekend that was supposed to help me recover. A corporate ransomware attack had consumed nearly 4 straight days of my life. My team barely slept. Executives panicked every hour. Lawyers demanded updates before we even understood the full damage. By the time everything stabilized, my hands actually trembled when I tried pouring coffee. Ethan looked at me one Thursday night and said we were leaving for Kiowa immediately before I completely burned myself out. That weekend was meant to be quiet. No visitors. No obligations. No family drama. Just rest. The first evening there felt perfect. The air smelled like salt and cedarwood after a light rain. Waves rolled softly behind the dunes. For the first time in weeks, my shoulders finally relaxed. The next morning, my mother called, asking where we were. I should have ignored it. Instead, I answered and explained that Ethan and I were resting at the beach house for a peaceful weekend alone. She sounded understanding, almost unusually understanding. She said my father had also been stressed lately and jokingly mentioned they might stop by for lunch someday. I told her gently but clearly that this weekend needed to stay private. She promised she understood completely. 3 hours later, I heard car doors outside. Not one car, 3. I looked through the window and felt my stomach drop instantly. My parents climbed out first, then Tyler and his family, then Madison carrying camera equipment, then 2 relatives I had not seen in years unloading folding chairs and coolers from the back of an SUV. My father walked toward the house smiling proudly, like he had organized some wonderful surprise. "See, Claire? This is what you needed. Family." Before I could even respond, people were already walking inside. Kids raced down the hallway with sandy shoes. Someone asked where the extra towels were stored. Madison started filming videos before she fully unpacked her bags. Tyler dragged a portable speaker onto the deck and asked whether the outdoor outlet still worked. The house transformed from peaceful to chaotic in less than 15 minutes. Ethan quietly looked at me from the kitchen. He did not pressure me. He simply waited to see whether I wanted help stopping it. I should have said yes. Instead, I did what I always did back then. I tried to manage everyone politely. I asked people to keep the noise down. I reminded relatives about community parking rules. I cleaned as problems appeared so things would not spiral further. My father laughed every time I tried setting limits. "Relax, Claire. Nobody comes to the beach to sit quietly." By evening, the entire place felt unfamiliar. Sand covered the hallway floor. Wet swimsuits dripped across dining chairs. Music blasted from the deck, while Madison recorded social media clips pretending we were one big happy family. Then came the moment that changed everything for me. After dinner, my father sat outside telling embarrassing stories about me from college, while relatives laughed awkwardly around him. I finally asked him to stop. His smile disappeared immediately. Then he said something loud enough for everyone at the table to hear. "Maybe if you did not want family around, you should not have bought a house big enough to make everybody else feel poor." The entire deck went silent. Nobody defended me. Nobody challenged him. My mother stared down at her drink. Tyler suddenly became interested in the grill. Madison checked her phone. And in that awful quiet moment, I realized something painful. My father did not see my success as something to celebrate. He saw it as something he deserved access to. After that Labor Day weekend, something inside me finally shifted. Not dramatically, not all at once, but quietly enough that my family did not notice until they started losing access to things they assumed would always be available. The first change was small. I stopped answering phone calls after 9 at night unless it was an actual emergency. Then I changed the smart lock code at the beach house and told everyone visits needed approval ahead of time.
No surpriseráveis.
No extra guests. No sharing the address with strangers. My father acted offended immediately. Tyler rolled his eyes and called the rules excessive. Madison joked that I was turning into a gated community dictator. But none of them stopped testing boundaries. A few months later, Tyler called asking me to co-sign a business loan for a second food truck. In the past, I probably would have agreed after a little pressure. This time I asked questions first. I wanted to see financial records, projected revenue, a repayment plan. Tyler became defensive within minutes. He accused me of treating him like a stranger instead of family. I calmly replied that he was asking me to risk my financial stability for his business decisions. That conversation ended badly. By dinner time, my mother had already called twice saying Tyler felt humiliated and unsupported. Apparently, basic accountability now counted as betrayal. Madison came next. She wanted to host a sponsored influencer weekend at the beach house with several content creators from Charleston and Savannah. She described it as a networking opportunity that could benefit everyone. When I asked why my private property needed to become part of her online brand, she became irritated almost instantly. "You never support my dreams unless you control everything." That was the exact sentence she used. A day later, my father called. Richard always became calmer before he became cruel. He said I was changing. Said success had made me distant from the people who raised me. Then he accused me of forgetting where I came from. For years those words would have worked on me. This time I finally understood something important. People who benefit from your lack of boundaries will always describe boundaries as selfishness, especially when they are no longer getting what they want. And the more I protected my peace, the angrier my family seemed to become. The final betrayal started with a social media post. I was eating lunch between meetings when I saw Madison upload a glossy reunion graphic filled with beach photos and scripted captions about family traditions. At the center of the image was my deck overlooking the water. Across the top she had written, "The Hale Family Summer Reunion." Kiowa Island weekend. My stomach tightened immediately. Nobody had discussed a reunion with me. Nobody had even mentioned possible dates. I opened the family group chat and instantly realized the entire event had already been planned behind my back. 24 relatives, 3 days, arrival schedules, meal assignments, parking plans, sleeping arrangements. It was all there. Tyler asked whether his trailer would fit near the side driveway. One cousin volunteered to bring coolers and folding tables. Madison talked about filming a family legacy video on the beach during sunset. Then I found a message that made my face burn with anger. My father had assigned himself and my mother the primary bedroom because parents deserve comfort at their age. My bedroom, my bed, my private bathroom, given away by a man who had never contributed a single mortgage payment toward that house. I sat there staring at the screen while years of swallowed frustration suddenly connected all at once. The surprise visits,
The disrespect.
the pressure, the guilt, the expectation that my labor automatically belonged to everybody else. None of it had ever been temporary. My family genuinely believed access to my life was their right. I started taking screenshots immediately. Every message, every room assignment, every assumption. Then my father sent the line that finally pushed everything over the edge. The Kiowa house is perfect for the reunion. A few seconds later, my mother added another message. Claire, stock the fridge before everybody arrives and please do not start drama. That sentence changed something permanently inside me. Not because it was rude, because it was commanding. They were not asking anymore. They were instructing me. Like I was unpaid staff inside a property they already considered theirs. I stared at the phone for almost a full minute before replying. Not happening. The group chat froze. Then Madison sent laughing emojis. Tyler asked if I was serious. My father ignored the message completely. And finally, my mother replied with the sentence they never expected me to challenge. "We are coming whether you like it or not." Friday morning arrived with a strange kind of calm. For the first time in years, I was not afraid of disappointing my family. I was simply tired of sacrificing myself to keep them comfortable. I woke before sunrise, made coffee, and started closing every door they had mistaken for permanent access. First, I called the Kiowa Community Management Office. I explained clearly that no family gathering had permission to use my property that weekend. The woman on the phone immediately understood the problem. 24 guests would violate occupancy and parking policies before the weekend even fully started. I asked her to revoke every guest pass connected to my relatives. Then I emailed written confirmation that only 2 people were authorized to enter the property. Ethan and me. Nobody else. After that, I changed every access code connected to the house. Front gate, garage entry, smart lock backups, everything. I even disabled the emergency code my father pressured me into sharing years earlier. Then I hired a private security guard recommended by the community office to remain near the entrance during the afternoon arrival period. Not because I expected violence, because entitlement behaves unpredictably once it collides with consequences. Around 7 that morning, Ethan came downstairs and found me reviewing confirmation emails at the kitchen table. He quietly read the screen for a moment before asking one simple question. "Can you live with this tomorrow?" There was no judgment in his voice, only concern. I thought carefully before answering. For years, I had lived with resentment, with exhaustion, with feeling violated inside my own home while everyone called it family love. Finally, I looked at him and said something I should have said long ago. I can live with this far easier than I can live with letting them walk over me again. We drove to Kiowa before noon carrying groceries and overnight bags like it was any normal beach weekend. My phone buzzed constantly during the drive. Madison asked if the kitchen still had good lighting for content filming. Tyler wanted to know where extra parking passes were stored. My mother asked whether I had enough breakfast food prepared for Monday morning. Not one person acknowledged my refusal. They still believed I would fold before confrontation arrived. At 1:30 in the afternoon, the first SUV appeared on the security camera near the front entrance. Then another. Then another. A long line of confidence rolling toward a gate they assumed would open automatically. Coolers strapped to rooftops. Beach chairs hanging from trunks. Children pressed against windows. My father riding in front like a man arriving at property he owned. The security guard stepped forward and stopped the first vehicle. Everything froze after that. I watched quietly through the camera feed while confusion spread from car to car. A few moments later, my phone rang from an unfamiliar local number. It was the guard confirming that a large group was demanding access while insisting they were family. I calmly explained they were not authorized guests. Before he responded, I heard my father yelling loudly in the background. Then, my own phone lit up with his name. I answered on the third ring. He did not say hello. He immediately started shouting, "Claire, what the hell did you do to the gate?" For a second, I simply listened to him breathing heavily on the other end of the line. Then I looked around my quiet kitchen, my peaceful living room, my untouched deck facing the ocean, and something inside me finally stopped shaking. I answered calmly. I protected my home. Then I hung up. Outside the gate, my father kept yelling. But for the first time in my life, his anger no longer controlled the outcome. Once the gate stayed closed long enough for reality to settle in, the entire reunion started falling apart almost immediately. My father tried controlling the situation at first. He paced near the security entrance arguing with the guard while calling relatives one by one insisting there had been some misunderstanding. But the problem with public lies is that eventually too many people compare notes. My mother called next. Her voice trembled the way it always did when she wanted guilt to replace accountability. She said the children were exhausted. People had taken time off work. Relatives had driven across multiple states. Then she asked how I could embarrass the family like this. I answered calmly. Nobody embarrassed the family except the person who promised strangers access to a home he did not own. She started crying immediately after that. Normally, I would have softened. Normally, I would have apologized just to stop the emotional pressure. This time, I ended the call before guilt could become another weapon. The family group chat exploded within minutes. Tyler demanded to know why I never warned anyone. I sent a screenshot of my message saying not happening. Madison accused me of ruining a once-in-a-lifetime family memory. I replied with screenshots showing she publicly announced the reunion before receiving permission. Then one of my cousins asked the question nobody else wanted to say out loud. Wait. Did Claire actually approve any of this? The silence that followed told everyone the truth before my father ever answered. Several relatives suddenly became furious with him. One aunt admitted she genuinely believed my father had helped purchase the property years earlier because he talked about the house like partial ownership already existed. Another relative apologized privately and said they never would have driven down if they knew I had clearly refused. Meanwhile, practical problems kept getting worse. Hotels near the beach were almost completely booked because of the holiday weekend. Restaurant reservations were canceled. Madison lost money on a photographer deposit she could not recover. Tyler's wife became angry because their children were exhausted and stuck sitting in traffic all afternoon for no reason. By sunset, the entire family had turned against itself. And through all of it, one realization became painfully obvious. My father was never truly upset about family disappointment. He was furious because for the first time people saw him exactly as he was. A man making promises with somebody else's life. The weeks after the reunion were quieter than I expected. Not peaceful immediately, but different. Like a storm had finally passed and left behind damage nobody could pretend was invisible anymore. A few relatives reached out privately to apologize. Some admitted they honestly believed my father had partial ownership of the beach. house because of the way he talked about it for years. Others confessed they noticed the unhealthy dynamic long before I did, but never wanted to involve themselves in family conflict. I appreciated the honesty even if it arrived late. As for my parents, communication changed permanently. I told them all future conversations needed to remain respectful and preferably written.
No surprise visits. No assumptions.
No more treating my life like shared property. My father sent one long angry email accusing me of arrogance, selfishness, betrayal, and forgetting my blood. For the first time in my adult life, I read his words without feeling responsible for fixing his emotions. I saved the email. Then I closed it without replying. That silence healed something inside me. Not every accusation deserves a defense. Sometimes refusing to participate is the boundary itself. The following Saturday, Ethan and I sat together on the deck just after sunrise. No unexpected cars. No loud music. No strangers walking through the kitchen. Only waves breaking softly beyond the dunes while morning light reflected across the water. Ethan handed me a cup of coffee and smiled. The house finally felt like ours again. But the biggest change was not the locked gate or the new security codes. It was me. I finally understood that protecting your peace is not cruelty. Saying no to exploitation is not betrayal. And people who only love your open door do not truly love you. They love access. If this story connected with you, share your thoughts in the comments below. Have you ever had to set painful boundaries with family to protect your peace? And if you enjoy real-life stories about relationships, respect, and emotional growth, do not forget to like, subscribe, and follow for more stories like this.